All right, so let's, I guess...
Well, let me finish your packet for you real quick. The other things you have in your packet is there are several laws pertaining to this process. Most of them, if you do a general obligation, there's much less laws that you have to deal with than if you do a special assessment. I've got some laws in here since there seem to be some questions about special assessment. Just basically provides what the limits are by state law. I'm not going to really go into
25%, isn't it, of the assessed value?
There are some stipulations where if it's agricultural land, you can opt out of. You can opt to delay it until it's non-agricultural land, and there's a procedure for doing that if you wish to do it. And then there's also the deficiency assessment issue, and there's a whole law in place on how the deficiency assessment requirement goes. Making a long story short, and that's kind of where I thought we would move into the discussion for tonight about payment methods. The last thing, and this was more for me, but since I had it, I went ahead and gave you a copy, and that's the hiring of an engineer. I provided you a copy of the hiring of an engineer. That's what I'm using as my program on developing our RFP for engineering services.
The thing I asked you about with this deal earlier when he first started off was just hiring an engineer first without even knowing what the costs of stuff are going to be. He seemed to tell me that we picked a better engineer, and usually your better quotes and stuff will come in under somebody who's very well qualified. Is that not the way I understood that?
Wait a second, we got to hire the engineer before we hire the firm?
We hire the engineer before we hire the contractor.
No, the contractor. I said contractor.
Right.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry. Yeah. It was the contractor I meant to say.
But, well, and that was one of Fred's comments. One of Fred's comments when we talked to Region 12 was that a lot of times he would make the argument that your more costly engineers actually save you more money in the long run because their estimates tend to be more accurate, their bid packets usually are more accurate, things of that nature. Now, that goes back more to the pros and cons of how they have the system set up for bidding on engineering services. As far as the payment options, you basically have about 4 different option schemes. One is of course, we write checks straight from ourselves to do it. Of course, we're not sitting on a mountain of money to do that, so that option's really not on the table for us. The second is, of course, the most common one that has been general obligation has been used. General obligation is, of course, we do bonding for it, and then it is assessed against the property tax owners, and there is no 25% limitation in those types of circumstances.
That's to the whole city.
Correct. That would fall in to the whole city.
What's the bonding limit for this town, by the way?
Oh, it's about, it changes every year.
Yeah, okay.
For this year, I think it's somewhere in the neighborhood between 3.8. I think it's somewhere in that neighborhood.
Okay, what would a 3 get us? Money.
You would be looking somewhere in the neighborhood of, let's say, $2 for that. You're looking probably in the neighborhood of 6.
Yeah, let me shut
$6 per thousand.
Hey, Kathy, I'm at a city council meeting. Can I call you back? All right. All right.
You're probably talking in the neighborhood of about $6 per thousand is what you're looking at.
No, I'm talking how much money would that raise?
Oh, how much money would that raise? I guess I don't understand.
Well, you said 3.8.
That's what we could collect out of the bonding process.
Okay, let's say just at a simple 3, how much money would that raise?
The tax rate?
Yeah.
It would be somewhere in the neighborhood of $5 to $6
okay,
per thousand.
how many dollars would that raise? Dollars would that, or, you know, say we wanted to do $1 million project. If we did a general obligation bond and we had it set at 3 and it was, our taxes went, our mill levy went up, you know, 6.
It'd go from roughly, let's say, 17.5 to 23.5.
How many more dollars would that raise in our budget to pay for that? From 17.5.
Oh, you would, within the first year, you would get the entire $3.5 million
Okay, that's what you're talking, 3 to 3.8 million. Okay,
Correct.
That's what
We
I was
cannot obligate the taxpayers of the city more than a percentage of what their overall assessed value is.
Okay.
And that's how that works.
You were saying 3 to 3.8
So
million.
that's what we can obligate the city to.
That's what I was after.
Correct.
So, and that would raise, if we had a general obligation, how long would that take? To raise $3 million and raised it $6 a thousand, how long would that take to pay off?
How long would that take to pay off?
Yeah,
I think I factored that at 10 years.
10 years.
Is what we figured to pay that off.
Okay, so, say we're gonna raise $3 million. Our millage rate would go from like 17 to 23.
Roughly, yeah.
17 to 23, so an extra $6 per thousand. And it would take 10 years to pay off. Okay, that's what I'm trying to get at.
And those are rough numbers.
Yeah, I realize, I just needed a rough idea here.
Sure. The other alternative, of course, is a mix that is focused towards special assessment. And I say it that way because special assessment by itself doesn't do it. There's the deficiency element of it there, the 25% rule.
Because of the abandoned property, you know, all of a sudden you got no house on that property.
Well, no, actually, we don't have issues with people not either the individual who owns the property pays the back taxes or pays the taxes, or somebody buys property through a back tax sale. So as far as us not collecting on a particular piece of property in town, that's not the issue. Where the issue runs in, Nick, is the middle school. Well, that whole strip of road right there, on that block, let's say, for instance, one whole side of the block is a non-tax-paying entity. So that means in that situation, the property owners on the other side of the road would be the only ones assessed for the frontage of that particular area of the project. And so then that's when the deficiency rules come into place.
Well, I was talking like, say, I just moved a house out of this lot.
Mm-hmm.
So now I've got a bare lot. The tax assessment on that bare lot is peanuts compared to what, you see what I'm getting at?
Correct.
Okay, say you could only go, say that ground's worth $2,000, and you can only go up to 25% of the value. You know, you're not going to get a whole lot of money raised for a street out of that.
Correct. And you know
that's
what?
Where I was.
And that's a good question. Now, of course, it takes 2 years for that to be adjusted with the assessor's office. But that would be a curious question is that if, say for instance, from the day we certify what the values that's based upon, if the next day you uplifted or demolished a home on it, and 2 years from now your assessed value goes down as a result of that, how would that affect you on the special?
I'm saying if it's bare now. I'm just saying if it's bare now.
Well, if it's bare now,
you're not going to get a whole lot of money raised from it.
No, but that would be factored into
That's what I'm getting at. Then the GO.
One of the things the engineer does in this process, and that's why it's important, especially if we are planning on doing special assessment, why it's so important to write it into the RFP. Because special assessment usually involves more work on the hands of the engineer. Because the engineer is the one that eventually ends up doing the analysis to determine frontage requirements, to determine who pays what on a particular strip of road.
And that's roughly 3% more cost, too.
Right.
I got to just hang on just a
Sure,
second.
sure. If you need to go to the restroom, we'll take a break.